neutron star destroyed Earth. You and millions of others were sent on a mission to find humanity a new home. As your Ark ship touches down in an undiscovered solar system, you must decide how you will rebuild in this vast new world. Welcome to Dual Universe, a revolutionary MMO set in a world shaped by its players. Dual Universe allows millions of players to interact with each other in a single, fully editable world. In this shared universe, every ship built, every city founded, and every battle waged writes a new chapter in the history of the game. In Dual Universe, you can build anything you can imagine, from simple outposts and ships to massive space stations. You can create awe-inspiring structures on your own, or unite with other players to build flourishing cities. With a well-designed spacecraft, you'll be able to explore and claim territory on any planet you can reach. The game features a real market economy where every player creation can be bought, sold, or traded. Within this economy, you can mine raw materials and develop industries to mass-produce goods. There are many ways to become wealthy and powerful in Dual Universe. Players can join forces by creating organizations. United, you can build massive business empires, start colonies, and even found nations. As your organization's influence grows, you will need to form alliances and be prepared to defend your interests in battle. In Dual Universe, combat can range in scale from a simple one-on-one skirmish to massive warfare with hundreds of ships. You can be the solo pilot of an agile fighter or command a large warship that needs a crew of players to man its many weapons. You can also repair and modify your ship in the middle of a firefight. In our shared universe, players are given unprecedented freedom to shape their world. Every battle won or lost, every business empire built, and every nation founded has a meaningful impact as players create history and invent the future. This is your world. How will you leave your mark in Dual Universe?
Hello everyone and welcome to this first live stream of Dual Universe. My host today is Yamamushi. Some of you know him very well because he's a famous member of the community. It happens that he also has joined the company, and so today he's going to host this Q&A session. Welcome, Yamamushi.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me here and happy to join the team.
Well, maybe just before we go straight into the questions, I just wanted to say a few words about the COVID-19. As you can see, we are not making these streams from the offices of Nova Quark. We are at home because, like many of you, I guess, we are confined and we cannot go to work, but we still have the whole company that is teleworking, and we still work relatively well, so it's not a catastrophe. Still, we wanted to actually make this, in a comfortable couch, something a bit more cool. But for now, we're going to have to go with, the stream from home. So maybe we can start with some questions, that we picked from the list of the most common questions that needs to be answered. So we're going to start with that, and then very quickly, I'll try to be quick. we're going to switch to the live questions because I really want to be able to answer your questions as they come on the chat. So we're going to try that. It's the first time we do this, so bear with us. We're going to do our best.
All right, so why don't we jump into it then? The first question that we have is beta going to be feature complete, or will we see that at release? And what do you consider to be feature complete?
Yeah, it's a good question because, as you know, a game like Dual Universe is like never going to be finished. So technically speaking, it's never be feature complete. We're going to add features as much as we can over time. But the real question is, are the features that are going to be in beta sufficient to have a coherent game without big holes in the logic of the gameplay? The answer is yes. We've picked the things that needs to be there, sometimes in a very simplified way. Definitely, it's not going to be as super polished as we would love to, but it will be there. Are there all the features we said going to be there that we talked about in the Kickstarter? No, we had to make some choices, but they will come eventually for sure. But for the beta, what we aim for is something that is consistent, that you don't have some necessary part of the gameplay that are missing. So this is what we aim for.
Great. The next question we have from the community is, how does NovaCorp envision high and low security areas functioning for PvP? Will there only be completely safe zones everywhere else, or how will that work?
Okay, so it's too soon to give too much specifics because there are a few things that are still changing, but the logic is that there will be an area that is non-PvP and the rest of the universe is going to be PvP. So that's the kind of logic that we are thinking about. So where is this area going to be positioned? How are we going to deal with that precisely? This is going to come later. We're going to probably do a dedicated discussion and stream about that. Keep in mind also that we will have those sanctuary moons in any case, where you can deploy a territory and live your life in complete peace, especially for builders. People want to just build stuff. We're thinking about you guys, and we're trying to make something that makes sense for you. So this is going to be part of the structure. So, but to answer fully that, let's give us a little bit more time.
Great. Ships can basically fly themselves with the right script right now. So what's going to stop people from scripting ships to orient and fly themselves, and do a superior position for combat, for their weaponry? Where's the player's skill in that? What happened to no automation? Are we just going to hit a button and watch the show? In most games, scripting something to move and turn is considered cheating. So how do you intend to make it not feel like cheating?
Okay, so first you cannot script the weapon firing. That's I think pretty clear for everyone. Now the other question that is now is, can you know the position of other ships from within Lua and orient the ships according to that? And so we're working on that. Probably we will disable some of those things so that you cannot do it in Lua. But what you will be able to do in Lua is to pilot the ship, because that's the way it's made. That's how your ship is actually moving. There's a Lua code that is controlling the engine. So this is going to stay. The question is, can you get enough information to make this movement meaningful in an automatic way? We're going to make sure that it doesn't break the game. So we're working on that. And probably the radar will not be able to be probed by Lua. So you don't know where to orient yourself. That's basically what's going to happen.
Will there be a wipe? And what does that mean for the players?
There's a wipe for beta, that's for sure. It means that we're going to reset the planets. We're going to reposition, and we still work on that. So that's why we need wipes, by the way. We need to be able to improve the position of all the ores so that the mining is better. We already got a lot of feedback. It's too hard, so we're going to try to make it a little bit more accessible. So this kind of things is the reason why we have a wipe. If everything goes well, we could have just one wipe at beta, and then that's it, and we're happy. If it's necessary, then because we find some problem with equilibration problems, we might have to do another wipe by the time of the release. But my personal wish is that we could try to do without a second wipe, so that the T0 of this is as soon as possible, and we start to build the world. In any case, guys, remember one thing that is super important. If you've built a wonderful thing in the game, it's not going to be lost. We're going to give you a blueprint. So you will be able to rebuild it exactly as it was, provided that you find the materials that were part of it in the first place. So it will take you a bit of time, but it's not like you lose the efforts and the what we call the intellectual property of your construct. This is going to be preserved in all cases. It's very important for us.
What are you going to do with more and more griefing occurring during the alpha test? What measures will NovaCorp be taking?
About griefing, you have to keep in mind that a good part of what we've observed so far is due to the absence of some game mechanics that are precisely made to deal with that, and that were not there. So they're going to be there. It's part of what I said about having something that is coherent, that doesn't have big holes in it. So this is going to be for sure fixed. And that's how we think about griefing. We want to provide tools for players to protect themselves from griefing. And there will be an amount of legitimate griefing, which is all about the legitimate combat, or people are going to compete on the markets and all sorts of things. This is just legit. This is the way the game is meant to be played. So there's a border, but to give you an example, some people were building wonderful things on the planet, and then one morning all the ground below was gone. This is because the territory management is not properly done. Territories are too expensive to build. We're thinking about ways to make this work without having too much territories at the same time. So I'm not going to go into details, but just keep in mind, we are not blind to these things, and we have gameplay answers for those.
Can we know a little bit more about the upcoming crafting changes or revamp? Will there be some revamp planned for ammo or perhaps for fuel?
Yeah, we've noticed that some things are simply too hard to craft, and so ammo is one of them. As I said, territory units also. So we're going to work on that, and so there's a re-equilibration that is going on, which is completely normal in alpha stage. That's what it's meant for. And so yeah, don't worry, we're going to make this usable, and we've seen that some issues were there, so it's going to be dealt with.
When will we see PvP changes? The planned second iteration of the current version. When will the PvP area be extended? Will it be directly the full universe, aside from the safe zone, or will it gradually expand?
It's a pretty big work to actually do everything related to the structure of the PvP, because, as I said, we're going to define the zones and everything, and it's related to the fact that we are rebuilding some of the planets. We are redesigning, the system. There's a lot of work going on, so I cannot guarantee when it's going to be done. Maybe just the last minutes before the beta. I mean, in the last weeks before the beta. So I cannot give you a time when this is going to happen. So we're working on it.
How many wipes will happen before beta? Is there a plan to have a wipe after beta? Is there a final decision made on that yet?
As I said, we're trying to not have a wipe after beta. If we have to, we will. It's related to the fact that we need to re-equilibrate mostly the resources on the ground, because that means we regenerate the planets. And if we regenerate the planets, we can keep the constructs, because maybe mountains are going to move and things like that. So yeah, so there's a wipe that is going to happen before beta, probably another one at the time of beta, and then maybe another one after. We'll see if we have to.
When can we expect a 24/7 online server? Will that happen at beta?
Definitely at beta, that's guaranteed. Probably a bit before, we're going to start to roll this up and do some testing. When, I cannot say yet, but definitely at beta. And beta is still, in case this is a question, and I guess it is, it's still scheduled as planned for this summer. We don't have a date yet to announce, but it's on schedule, and there's nothing that we postpone to next year or something like that.
Great. And what about the game performance? Will there be significant improvements soon?
Oh yes. There is. I wish I could share with you all these guys, but the game is in a transformation phase at the moment. A lot of things are improving dramatically on the graphic sides, on the performance side. So a lot of things are getting really better. There are probably going to be in beta, because it's a beta, there will be still some moments where the load is extreme and we have not done all the optimizations we want to do. We sort of know what we want to do, but it's not clear we are going to be able to do everything by the time of beta. So there are some heavily loaded places if you go in a large city with lots of screens everywhere. We know how to optimize that. Will we be able to do that for beta? I don't know, but at least all the normal situations in other cases will be handled and will be playable. Don't worry about that. No need to have a massive computer to run the game. So this is what we aim at. And I tell you, the progress made every week is really impressive. And I'm very excited to see how the game is evolving.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you to those in the community who submitted questions for the AMA. I'm going to turn now to Twitch and field some questions here. The first question I have from Twitch is from Logan Battlecrafter. He wants to know if he can build the Starship Andromeda to scale. It's 1.3 kilometers long. It can house 6,000 people, 4,000 crew, 2,000 Marines. He's wondering if the rendering and the scripting will work at that distance.
There's a limit to the size of things that are moving in the game because you need the physics to be able to see both extremity of your huge construct, right? So it's right now it's the reason why the biggest moving construct is 64 meters. We're gonna try to improve that, but we don't want to break everything, just to show off a large number. So it's not going to be possible immediately, but in principle, we could probably reach that kind of things at some point, but we're going to be, playing on the safe side for the size of it. It's already pretty big. You can do already very, very large chips. I would say probably hosting 100 people without problems, I guess.
The next question comes from Prime Growler Purr. He says, I'm a builder, and he wants to know if we can make schematics for pieces rather than entire build.
For pieces, you mean subparts of your voxels, I guess. That was actually an idea we wanted to do, but we had to, cut this out of the roadmap because of time constraints for now. That you could, the pieces of voxel you can now copy paste. That you can actually save them in sort of a bank, so that you can reuse them from one construct to the other, which people actually do today by dedicating a sort of a construct that is a place where you deposit those things physically in the world and then you copy paste them from there. So we just want to make this process more integrated, but it's not going to be in beta, unfortunately. But yeah, it's part of those features that are relatively easy to do, but there are so many, and we had to make choices. So don't worry, it's going to come, but probably not by the time of beta.
Prime True Phoenix 99 asks, how do you get access to beta?
To beta? You mean how will you be able to buy the beta, or from people who are? Well, it's going to be available from major platforms. I cannot disclose anything at the moment, and so you'll be able to just buy it and download it. That's we're going to make it very simple.
Great. Taco Dan on Twitch asks, currently the buildings and vehicles in game have the same white, gray, black texture, which makes everything look the same. Is this deliberate, or will we see other materials like steel, wood, brick, and so on?
Oh, you will. The only thing is that making a ship out of bricks is probably not a very good idea. So there are some, sort of, I would almost say, real-world constraints here about what you can use to build a ship, relative to the resistance of the materials, their weight, and so on. So that's probably why most people are using aluminum and things like that. Now, what is coming is that we're working on new textures so that it's going to look better. We want to cut, this kind of flat textures that we see sometimes, and that make feel like the game is a little bit outdated. So this is something we work very, very hard on, and but nothing prevents you from making a ship out of wood. So except that it should not go in PvP, I guess.
Spire74 asks, what kind of space travel is there? For example, is there light speed and stuff?
Well, right now, as we speak, we're working on warp drives, and that's going to be a big change on how you can actually move around the system. The reasoning is that today, to go from one planet to another, you need several hours, and that's just too much. It's okay, it's interesting for some people, and you might enjoy to do it once or twice. But if we want to have commerce developing with people really exchanging from one planet to the other, trading, and not having some kind of isolated subsystems in the game, just because they're just too far away, we need to have a way so that you can move fast between planets. So there's a whole gameplay about that. It's not as you have all sorts of interesting things you will be able to do in deploying sort of warp destinations within your station. So we're going to talk about that in more detail soon. But just keep in mind, this is going to change radically, actually, the experience of the game, because it will make it relatively easier, not cheaper, because there will be a cost, of course, but it will make it possible to actually travel rapidly around the system.
Lorachi Desa Grandmere asks on Twitch, new planets and asteroids, are they planned for beta?
Some of them, yes. I'm not sure we're going to be able to revamp all the planets, and that's actually might be a good reason for another wipe. But what we're trying to do, at least we're going to have a new alias, and we're going to try to have as many new planets as possible. We're going to revamp a few moons as well. and so this is in the making.
Chris Taylor asks, what is the max number of players that can all be together during a battle?
The honest answer is we don't know, because we never actually tested it with real players. You have to understand that network technologies, you can test them with bots and have some confident feedback on the core algorithms, the way they are going to behave. But at the end of the day, you need a test on the field. And right now, we just don't have enough players to do any massive tests and see large numbers, like thousands or things like that. We hope we will be able to sustain that kind of numbers. We have designed everything for that. But ultimately, the tests that we're going to do when we ramp up in number of players are going to be the real honest and I would say scientific answer to this question. But rest assured that we have designed the game so that it should work, and we are confident that it will work. But then we need to test.
Furious Sky asks, how will the machines work for mining, and how will you transport them into the industry machines, and how will the industry system work?
So the industry, for those who don't know about this aspect, is there are two folds. There's one that is equipped in your what we call the nanoformer, so you can craft some very simple things from there. Crafting is just a transformation of a sort of a vector of ingredients into a vector of products, right? So you have byproducts, by the way, which making the system interesting, because sometimes you want to produce something, but you have some byproducts that you don't really want, but then you can sell them, and then that makes another aspect of your activity as an industrialist. So the one that is in your nanoformer is very limited. It's just to bootstrap the industry. Once you want to do real complicated elements or parts or scraps and things, you need to actually build factories, in fact. So you need to create what are called industry units. So there are different things like chemical reactors or dedicated assemblies liable to create elements. So these kind of things, the terms are clear when you are in the game. You understand what I'm talking about. But the bottom line is that you chain machines together that picks their ingredients from containers, and they output whatever they do to another container. And then you can chain that, and you can parallelize that also, so you can actually boost your production capability by having different machines running in parallel. So that's not a simple thing to actually design an efficient factory. That's why it's interesting. So you have trade-offs. You have to think how you're going to be optimizing this. And that could very well be what you do in the game. It could be the thing you like to do, and you focus on that, and that's a completely legitimate gameplay in our view. There are different things you could do in the game without even touching on the rest. That's why it's not a single-player game where all experience, is meant for you. I mean, you're meant to experience the whole game, right? That's the logic. In our case, it's a bit different. You're gonna shop the things that you like, and pick the kind of activities you enjoy. And the markets are going to be an important part of regulating all this, because basically what you don't want to do, you're going to buy. So the markets are going to be super important for you to be able to specialize.
Turbo Nuber asks, how will we be able to protect our constructs that we sell from being duplicated or by others blueprinting it?
So there's a new feature that was actually added just a few weeks ago that will add what we could actually call digital right management. So when you buy a construct, you're not allowed to create a blueprint out of it. Only the creator of the construct is able to blueprint it. And the creator is the guy who deploys the core unit to actually initiate the construction of that thing from the ground up. So that's implemented now. So you can sell your constructs, you can make copies of them and then sell them to people without being worried of being stolen your intellectual property.
Prime Kai 88 asks, is there a chance to get painting ships or being able to put stickers on them?
We're thinking about that. Of course, it's a good idea. And like everything else, it's not clear whether we'll be able to squeeze that into the beta. But that's, that's a very logical thing to add in a game like what we do. You can already customize, the look by most of the materials, they come with different colors. So you can do a lot of things already. But we want to push that, and we will continue to push it as soon as we can, so that we can go more and more into customization, because that's the point. It's a building game, so you want to make it. And actually, I think most people, they will not build their ship because it's, fairly, if you want to do a really good ship, it can be fairly complicated. You might not be interested in that, but you're going to buy a ship and you're going to customize it. So all the building aspect for most people is just going to be, customize my ship. I add a little thing here, I change the color there, I put another door at that place, this kind of things, which is easy, really very easy. So that's the way to think also about the gradual complexity of all the gameplays that we have in the game.
Prime Ostrus One asks, how does Novacorp plan on making a large diversity of ships viable? In many other voxel games, there's a sharp divide between pretty ships and functional ships.
I personally, I rely on the genius of our players, and I'm not talking about necessarily all the players, even though I think they're all geniuses. But the point is that you just need a small fraction of people who are really good at doing this, and because you have a single shard world, so everybody is in the same game, right? Those guys, they can mass produce their constructs and sell them, and soon enough, people will actually go to them to buy their constructs. So there's a sort of a natural selection. People who are designing ships that are maybe functional but not very nice, they won't sell because people don't like it, right? So at some point, those ships are going to fade out, and the things that are going to be popular are the things that sell, right? So this is also another example where the economy, coupled with the fact that it's happening in a coherent war, one world, that is shared by everyone. This is fundamental. So, in short, I hope that the market are going to select what is good. That's what I'm talking about. Just like in the real world,
Rothbardian asks, can we have a realistic share trading system of orgs and corporations? He means realistic as in using IPOs and dividend systems where orgs and corporations declare dividends to shareholders, etc.
It's definitely in the vision, and it's definitely cool, and we want to do that. And the whole legate system that we have is actually revolving around that idea. The idea that a legate could actually own several shares of the organization. A company works like that. Legates are called shareholders. But the country also works like that. Most democratic countries are like that, and everybody has one share. And when you vote, it's one vote for one person. It was not always the case. There was other system in the past where, for example, your weight in the voting system could be depending on your status or whatever. I mean, this all those shades of complex organization will be possible, but not yet for beta. So, but definitely this is in the vision, and we're gonna work on introducing that at some point, maybe an expansion. I don't know, but yes.
There's a question here. Can you show some teaser of upcoming development from time to time? They're curious about things. They want to see things from the future.
I think we're going to do that because, as I said, there's a lot of changes coming in the client at the moment in the game itself. So I think we're going to be pushing more previews of a certain number of things. So it's coming, and we keep doing the dev blogs where we show what we have been working on. It's been kind of irregular, but I mean, we try to. It takes a lot of time, to do this, so we do it when we can. But yes, so definitely the answer is yes.
Zero King asks, on the latest devlog, you mentioned mesh servers. Is there a way to improve the loading of constructs? Could you elaborate on how this works and when it comes into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those drastic improvement. So for those of you who play the game at the moment, you see that when the construct you build is far away, you see a low resolution version of it that is not very nice. It's due to the way we manage. I'm not going to go into technical details, but the way we manage resolution degradation, level of details currently. So we have another method that is going to come, which is going to basically let the server do that for us, and we're going to stream the meshes that have been, reduced in details, but with powerful dedicated algorithms that work better. And so those things are going to look way better. And if things goes as we plan, we're going to have way better constructs even from far away. So this is part of the improvement that could also improve the performances and make super large cities a possibility at some point. So this is part of the improvements coming for beta.
Another question here from Furious Sky. will there be a marker where you can see the player-built cities so you can go visit them? Will there be an easy way to find them?
Oh, sure. This is another thing that is actually coming. We call it surrogate robots, and that's a feature that will allow you to put a beacon on your construct, basically a teleporter if you want, that says, if you put it in public mode, anyone can actually teleport here as a robot. So it's like as if you were in VR, from somewhere else on a station that you can access, and you teleport yourself in this robot, so you can just see what it sees, move around. It's you will have limitations in what you can do, but at least you will be able to visit this place, and that's a very important part of lowering the barrier to entry for people getting into Dual Universe for the first time. They will be able to immediately experience very cool things and view beautiful cities or even headquarters of organizations who try to recruit and all sorts of things. So this is something we're working on to make it more accessible and be able to visit things. But you'll never be able to transport anything in your pockets, right? You're controlling a robot. So when you come back, you don't bring anything back with you. So that's a fundamental thing. Otherwise, you would break the rest of the game. So it's just think about this. There was this movie Surrogate, where you stay home. It probably would be pretty useful at the time now. And you control a robot that go and work for you instead of you. That's the idea, basically.
Gravetedder asks, will fuel tanks and ammo containers go boom? And I think what he means by that is when they explode, will the damage spread?
That's not planned, but that will be an interesting addition and probably fairly easy to do, I think. Yes, good idea.
Candy Statue 88 asks, will the planets have diverse biomes or weather of any kind?
Weather, no, because at least no. As always, when I say no, it's no in the short term, but we will see later. Maybe we can work on that. But weather is very complicated because it has to be coherent. You are in a real universe. Everything that is there, if you have a cloud, is there. So you need to. It's not just effects on your rendering locally and things like that. So whether we'll look into this later. Biomes, definitely yes. We're going to have different biomes in planets. Not as much as we would love to, because this is taking a lot of time. But as everything else, we're going to add gradually more and more of them. Yes, but definitely we're working on diverse and very interesting biomes for the new planets, in particular the new Alioth. Alioth is a planet where you start the game for people who don't know about it.
Great. Multi-Nova asks, will it be possible to add container deposit and withdrawal tracking, even if it's using Lua? He says, our org system does not have many of the standard features that many MMOs have for guild management.
I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand. You mean a container where you can withdraw from?
I think he means being able to track who is withdrawing and how much they're taken out.
Oh, okay.
Similar, I guess, to a guild bank in other MMOs.
Okay. Well, we have the dispensers at the moment that allow you to say, for example, you can withdraw a certain amount, a certain batch of items from this every day or once in a certain amount of time. But we don't have any proper tracking of who has done that. Yeah, we could add that for sure. It's not a big deal. But it's not in the priorities for beta again, so this is not going to come for beta, but it's part of all the things. We're going to listen to the community, and if there's a lot of people complaining about this is something we need to manage our orgs, and that's everybody is doing that, of course we're going to put it high in the priority list. So
Truffle Maniac asks, is there going to be any options to allow an organization to hide its members' identity to the public?
Good question, because I think at the moment it's not the case, and I think it might be something you want to do so that you allow the spy gameplay, which is very interesting. So yes, definitely. But the organization system is already pretty complex, and it took us a lot of time to develop it properly. So we are not going to add that in this first version, but in the future, I think it's something we're going to add. Yes, I like the spy gameplay very much. It's interesting.
Ducamus Maximus asks, will there be more than one star system at launch, or will they be implemented post-launch?
Post-launch, and definitely they will. But it's you need to implement another load of gameplay and technologies to handle that properly. So we decided not to do it for now. But it's going to be, a way by which we increase progressively the size of the available universe, where we introduce new planets with new biomes and new things to explore. So it's going to be cool, and it's going to be part of the regular, upgrades of the game. So it's already a very large place. The first system is huge, and you have way too more space, I think, already. So it's okay. It's okay for a start.
Polanio asks, can we later recycle elements back to resources?
This is an interesting idea we have been debating. There must be a loss if we do that, but it's a possibility we are going to look into at some point. Yes. So I cannot say definitely, but we're perfectly aware that this is something you might want to do. But we're just careful about the side effects of that. It will be a long discussion, so let's just say yes, we're going to look into this.
Dropnot asks, is there the possibility of creating personalized roles in the organization?
Yes. I don't know in what sense you mean personalized, but the whole idea of the right and duty management system coupled with the organization is that you can create some kind of functions or roles that group a certain number of rights on a certain number of things that belong to your organization, and that effectively defines a role in which you can put some players that are members of your org. So you can definitely label this role with a special name, like the pilots, and they will have the right to fly the construct, the organization's construct, and so therefore they are pilots. That's something that is already in the game, and as with everything else, I mean, there are tons of improvements and new things we could add on top of that, but it's already quite powerful, in fact.
Dr. DDL asks, will there be a central trade hub like JITA and EVE?
I don't know, but I think so. It will emerge. In any case, I mean, we're not going to be setting this. There's a high chance that the markets around the Arcship are going to be very strong because that's where people are spawning. So I would expect that JITAs are going to be around that place. But we want to make this as fluid as possible. And there's one thing that maybe some people were about to ask about the player-owned markets. So players could create their own markets. It's a fairly complicated feature to do well because of the edge cases. What happens if it gets blown away? If the market owner is stealing from you, and all sorts of things. There are solutions, of course, but it's not an easy gameplay to set up. So we have postponed this one as well. But that is the vision. That is that we should not even put any market at all. People put their markets where they want, and then the system is going to converge towards de facto places where people go to trade because it evolved like that. So we cannot do that at the moment. So we're going to have a lot of markets available a bit everywhere, and we will see what picks the attention of players, depending on where the most influential organizations are going to be located, I guess, and also depending on the position of resources. So it's nice that it's emerging. We don't know.
Azure Sky asks, how complex will geology and mining be? For example, will I need to dig around thick rock to get to ore?
There's no rock that you cannot remove at the moment. It could be an interesting addition, so that you actually have to move around them. So you can always dig your way through anything. Certain things are more, difficult to mine than others. So, but in practice, it's not the way it is. In practice, you just have to find the ore vein, and you just dig into soil that is pretty easy to dig through, and you navigate on the ground based on your radar feedback and find the ore vein. That's it. So one addition that's going to come with the beta is that there will be some very large ore veins, and that's very important so that you can actually invest into finding one of those. And once you've found one, it's something you cannot mine in 5 minutes. It's something that becomes a strategic asset. You need to defend it, maybe you need to hide it. And that's going to add another dimension to the mining gameplay. Yeah, and so we're going to also probably move some of the ores a bit higher, so they are not so deep, so that they are not so hard to find. So we're working on that at the moment.
A question from Anderson Williams is, will there be changes in the weapons, such as the targeting system, or will weapons have to be different between atmosphere and space? He says, it feels painful to have separate weapon systems for both with no way to transfer between space and atmosphere.
Well, it's always with the idea of specializing ships, that we were doing this so that you have ships that are good at certain things, but they are not jack of all trades. And so, as you know, currently the PvP in the atmosphere is not implemented. We're going to see how it turns out, how people are reacting to that, and we'll see how we evolve this vision on that. There's no certitude on these things for the moment. As I said, the logic is to try to go through specialized ships that are, that you need balance between different types of ships in an efficient fleet. That's, I think, is interesting, but we will see with the tests and what the community is saying.
And the last question we have here from the community is from Shakare. He says, when does Yamamushi have to trim his beard so that he looks like JC?
Whenever you want, but maybe I'm going to shave this, so...
I think the correct answer is you need to grow your beard to look like Yamamushi's.
Okay, I will try that.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking part in this AMA or Q&A session. Just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching the live stream, and thank you for tuning in. I also want to remind everybody that Dual Universe has many social media accounts to follow, such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, here on Twitch, as well as a SoundCloud account. So be sure to follow us on all those accounts, and hope to see you all soon at Dual Universe.
Thank you, Yamamushi. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe. And we're going to be working hard to get the beta in time. And meanwhile, see you soon in Dual Universe.